Hello and welcome. Thank you for listening. My guest today traded the Pacific Ocean views for the sugar sand views of the Florida coast. She's currently a journalist with one of the major media companies of this country, Spectrum. She reports for Bay News 9, with previous stints in Texas. She's also a darn fine blogger. You can find her blog at proseccopalms.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Adria Iraheta. DJ, roll that music. Adria Iraheta. Let me try that one more time. Adria Iraheta. I hope I said that right. Did I butcher it?
A little bit, but it's okay.
I knew it was gonna happen. Like I was like repeating it during the countdown. I was repeating it time and time again just to make sure. And then, yeah, a moment of, when it actually counts. No, I apologize.
It's okay. I give people at least like 3 days to get my name right because I've grown up with this. So.
Oh well.
But it's
awesome. Well, thank you for just being on the show here with me today. It's a pleasure to speak with you. And we both were at Camp News. What was it, about 2 years ago now? Because I know last year it was canceled.
A year and a half, yeah. So sad.
Yeah, maybe it was like January, I think. Well, in any case,
over a year.
I know it's 2020 is such a blur. I don't even remember it anymore. Other than it's a big COVID year, of course. And we all have had to adjust. But before we get into that, I just have to ask you, like, what is this Blue Moon milk drink? What's that about?
So the story behind that, it's supposed to be this relaxation drink that you make with like almond milk or, whatever milk of your choosing and some spices and stuff. And I made it extra with like this pea powder. But the whole point of that was I did that at the beginning of the lockdown when I was bored out of my mind and stressed out of my mind. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this will help. I mean, it did, but that was the only time I made it. But it looked cool. It tasted good. Fun. People were making their whipped coffees, but I was making moon milk.
That's right. I remember that whipped coffee.
I tried making whipped coffee and I failed completely. So I had to do this instead because I was so stressed out by the whipped coffee making.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen it being made and it's a little difficult. I wouldn't even trust myself to make those whipped coffees, but this actually,
it was impossible.
Yeah, this looks really simple. I think, and this is part of your blog, which I looked at it and I love. You're an excellent blogger, so I really hope you keep that going. But your blog is called Prosecco and Palms.
And Palms, yes.
And this post for this drink was on there, and the instructions were super simple. I love that you include some of the flour elements in the drink. Now, do you like swallow those as well, or do you just?
You can, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. I did it more just for the look of it. But I mean they're edible. Like you go to some restaurants, they put like the edible flowers on there, so it's kind of the same thing. They're just dried. Get them on Amazon for like $3. It's super cheap. So. Wow.
Oh, well, that's good to know. That's a good tip. Yeah, you can find everything at Amazon nowadays. It's insane. So I'll have to try this drink. But anyway, I saw it in your blog, and I was like, damn, that's actually pretty good. Because I do love, my favorite color is blue, as you can probably tell from my backdrop and my graphics and everything. Let's actually get into your blog because, like I said, I just thought it was like really excellent and well put together, and pictures like that Blue Moon drink. I mean, it's awesome. But that's just one of the images that is in your blog. Like every single image that I saw in there is really good. So I mean, you're a really good photographer. But what
it comes with the job.
Exactly. And you're what they call an MMJ, right? Multimedia journalist. You don't necessarily get a photographer to go with you on your stories. It's like you're a one-woman show.
Yeah, I do it all. I take pictures, I take videos, I write, I edit, I run my own social media, just do it all. One woman show. It's a lot. I mean, even today, I told you I was running around until I joined you. So it's a lot. But yeah, I mean, the good thing is I learned how to take really great pictures on my phone, no less. So it's all very portable and convenient. But yeah, it's a fun little side project that I have.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, okay. Regarding your blog, how did you come up with the name? Because that's a really excellent name. I wish I would have come up with that.
Thanks. Yeah. So just a lot of brunching out here in Florida. I mean, it's similar to California. I mean, we have great weather, but I would say our weather's a little better because our winters are a lot warmer. So, you get this nice patio weather year round. It's nice to go out on the weekend, de-stress after a long work week and have a nice mimosa, glass of prosecco, and there are palm trees everywhere. So I figured prosecco and palms. That's great. We do a lot of eating out here. I mean, it's so much good food out here in Tampa.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like it, and it looks like it too. So for anybody that wants to visit your blog, it's just proseccopalms.com, right?
Yeah, simple.
Yeah, super easy. But you're not originally from Tampa, right?
No, I'm from Southern California, born and raised. I went to school out there, and then the news life took me elsewhere.
Yeah, like why would you trade living in California for the news business, which is a lot of the times unpredictable, can take you anywhere outside of your hometown. So like, why would you want that life?
I think us news people are a special breed. I mean, we'll do anything for this job, and it's really a passion project. That's what I tell people. And, I'll probably get into this as we talk more, but it's easy to get burnt out, I think, for a lot of journalists. But at the end of the day, there's something that keeps all of us in this business because sometimes the cons outweigh the pros, I would say. But I don't know. It's such a cool job, and it's cool to be able to go around and telling people stories and documenting history. So for that reason alone, I mean, I was willing to go anywhere, and now here I am in Florida, but I was in Texas for 4 years. So that's what made me leave ultimately. I knew what I was signing up for, as I think a lot of young aspiring journalists know that they're going to get into, but that is why I left after 21 years. I packed up my car and headed out, but always like to go visit back home whenever I can. COVID aside, of course.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, COVID just really upended, I think, all of our lives in so many different ways, especially, journalists, because you're still got to be out there telling stories. And so I've had so many colleagues actually contract COVID-19 because they were out there doing their job. So, it's staying safe and also having that worry on top of, everything else that you're doing for your job. And not only that, but you're also doing it all yourself. So when COVID started, how did you pivot from what you were doing before to all of a sudden having to deal with all this massive closures everywhere?
Oh man, I still remember it like it was yesterday, even though it also feels like it was 4 years ago at this point. So much has happened. I just remember, being in the news business, you're hearing everything because you're always listening to what's going on in the world and reporting on that. So I remember when you started hearing these whispers of it's getting bad. And it was, probably a little over a year ago, like end of February, like beginning of March, like first week of March. Hearing those stories and hearing the anchors talk about this, because at this point we weren't necessarily doing packages on it or going really in depth into it. And then it just from maybe a span of 5 days, we went from, we're shutting this down. And at that point, the situation was so fluid. And so at this point we were still working working as normal rather, in the newsroom. And I think it was the day before, I think it was like March 12th. I got a call from one of my bosses saying, all right, starting tomorrow, we're going to have reporters start working from home. So it was like, like that. Just like I said, it happened in a blink of an eye. And so they said, all right, go home, finish what you're doing, and then come back to the station, get all the stuff you're going to need for the foreseeable future, basically clear out your desk, and we'll get you set up to work from home. And as an MMJ, we already have like the laptop, most of our gear with us. So it wasn't too big of a transition, but it was, it was like one day to another. It was just go home and do what you do and do it this way. So it was a lot more Zoom interviews after that. And it was just weird not being in the newsroom environment, as I'm sure for a lot of people, even non-news people, just leaving the office and not being in that surrounding. So that transition, I think, was the biggest. And just like that knowing of things are different right now. But in a sense, because of my specific role as an MMJ, it kind of made it a little better for me because I was already used to kind of being on my own and being able to work anywhere. So it was a lot of changes, but also not too bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I think, a lot of people that are in a position like yours, or that can work remote, that are not tethered to going to the station all the time, that have been set up like that for a while, probably coped with the remote work a lot better than a lot of other people. But for me, for example, I was told, just get ready to start working remotely by the end of the week. And, who knows when we're going to come back. Might be 3 months from now. Yeah. And of course, 3 months extended to, the rest of the year. And then now we're in 2021 and it's still going on. And during that time, you're right, like a lot of changes happen. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people got hired elsewhere. Just a ton of things have happened during that 1 year that are just crazy. I don't think I never dreamt that something like this would happen. But I remember when we first heard of a COVID case. Well, I'm in Los Angeles, so one day it's like I've been following the COVID outbreak from China since I think December of 2019, and then all of a sudden I hear we have a case in Los Angeles. We have 2 cases, and all of a sudden it just starts exploding. Do you remember when you first heard, we have a case in Tampa? And what went through your mind when you heard that?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact day because everything else is a blur at that point on. But I want to say it was probably a few weeks into the lockdowns and hearing that. And this was when it was really bad in Milan, Italy. And we had some people that were in Tampa that came back and that were in Milan. And a few days later, it came out that several people had tested positive. And at that point, it was so unknown. And with the lockdown being so fresh and us not really knowing what really was happening, what COVID even was, and not a lot of documented cases where you knew, the majority of people have this and this and this symptom. At this point, you really don't know how badly people are getting sick, or if they're not getting that sick, or, the unknown. So at that point, and still having to go out into the field sometimes, even though, we're encouraged to work remotely as much as possible, just knowing that, okay, it's here, it's in town. How is this going to snowball from here? And how are we going to cope with that? And what is that going to look like for us? So there's just so many questions running through my mind, at least, as I'm sure with everyone else's. But at that point, that's when it really, really hit home, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what did you, what was your process for, staying healthy in a way? For me, it came down to wiping every single package that I got, either from these food delivery services or Amazon. But, what was your process like?
Yeah, same thing. Just a lot of Clorox wipes and hand sanitizer, especially, going out into the field, wiping down all of my equipment. And I would do a lot of like Uber Eats delivery and just having them like leave it outside the door, wiping that down, and really just trying to avoid going out as much as possible and trying not to touch anything. So yeah, it was a lot of just precautions, as has become the norm now.
Yeah, I like that. I like that you said in your blog, and I'm going to ask you about this because there's a passage in your blog where you say, and I think this is in your recent post actually, you say, I reflected as I looked back at my last couple of posts. I was a completely different person at the beginning of the quarantine. But then right above that, you say these past 10 months have been incredibly trying and challenging, but most importantly, transformative. So what did you mean by that?
I mean, I think COVID really made me personally just look at life differently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think before my life, to sum it up, I guess, my life before was just go, 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 especially with this job. This job was my life, and I was always, commuting to work, doing my thing, going to some work event or some other, side thing that I have going on because I'm involved in some other things, professionally. And so it was just doing that, never really taking time to stop and just appreciate the little things. And then having all this downtime, and then even just sitting at home and working from home really was transformative. And, you think, or you don't think too much about it, when you're going through this, but I mean, it takes a toll, like mentally, all these changes. And as a journalist, firsthand seeing all the suffering, how it's affecting people. I mean, yeah, it really does take a toll. So it just made me, appreciate the little things and take more time to be mindful, I guess. And I can see how that also has positively affected my life, once I did get used to the lockdowns and everything.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you would do to, cope and at least try and relax? Which, a lot of the times, if you're working from home, where do you go? But what were some of the coping mechanisms that helped you get through this long haul of a pandemic?
Well, especially, at first, this is kind of what kickstarted it. Not having that break of like, I'm sitting at home, but I'm also working. Like, how do I snap out of that, like the work mode? I really took time out of my day to like, after I got done with editing and writing and all my daily commitments for work, I would go outside and I would either go for a walk or like I would rollerblade a lot at the beginning of the pandemic. Because as you know, Florida has been a lot more lenient with COVID and the lockdowns. So everything really opened back up by, I want to say, August. But until then, so like pretty much all spring and summer, there wasn't a lot to do. So yeah, and in the spring, the weather's beautiful here. I mean, it's 75 degrees, and at night it's still like really nice, and the sun goes or sets late. So yeah, I mean, it was just the perfect time to be outdoors, and that really was the only thing to do. So yeah, bike rides, rollerblading, even just going up to like a rooftop and watching the sunset. That was, that was a good way to just get outside and de-stress and just unplug and in turn do a lot of reflecting.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I would say it was a little, it was a little different just because I took a lot of what you just said actually, but also there was a lot of binge watching Netflix and a bunch of other streaming services because I would just be so mentally exhausted after my shift that I just didn't really feel like doing anything else other than just watching something that wasn't even based in reality. So like none of these real reality shows or anything, more like comedy shows, sitcoms. So
Yeah.
I rewatched a lot of The Office a lot. And I don't know, man, that show
That's a
still
good one.
keeps me laughing. Even if I see the same episode 10 times in a row, it still keeps me laughing. It's crazy. I love that show.
Those are the best shows where you can just go back and you know that whatever happens, like you're gonna laugh and you're gonna have a good time, and it's never gets old.
Exactly. Well, and then we you go from having Zoom calls all the time to all of a sudden more recently you were at the Super Bowl, right? You were covering the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so that was quite the change. But oh my gosh, I'm still recovering from that. That was the experience of a lifetime. And so I didn't luck out in terms of like covering the actual game or like, going inside the stadium, but even just being in this atmosphere where Tampa's in the spotlight and we're the first home team to play like a home Super Bowl in the history of Super Bowl. So that was really cool to see, and just the city was just amped. And there was like for the past 3 weeks, we've just been talking Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. And it's, oh my gosh, just an unforgettable experience. I'm still so hyped. I mean, we had our boat parade yesterday. So this basically kind of ended the whole Super Bowl run here in town. But yeah, until yesterday, it was crazy.
Oh, man. Wow, what was your favorite part about covering that?
I think just seeing like all the different people coming into town, and seeing the city transform. So I live in like the downtown area. So they had like the NFL experience set up here. So we got to see like all of that kind of transform downtown, seeing people walk around. So like I did some of like the business angle where I did a story on tailgaters, because there's like a neighborhood right across from Raymond James Stadium. So they will sell spots on their lawns or their driveways for people to tailgate. And because of COVID, there are typically tailgate lots like right across from the stadium, but those are closed because like the stadium doesn't want to sponsor that.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, if people are like renting out their lots, then they're profiting, and people are taking advantage of that because they want to tailgate. So I was out there and just seeing like all the signs, like parking, $50. And
Wow.
And you like across the street, you see the stages set up. Like Miley Cyrus did that TikTok tailgate thing. Like the street I was on doing a story, they could see the stage from their street. So like they got a free show out of it. So just seeing like all of that and like how different that is for our city, like that was super cool. Super cool.
Did you spot any celebrities out there?
I didn't. I was really sad about that.
Not
I
even
was
Tom Brady?
convinced. Oh, well, Tom Brady. I live like 2 miles away from Tom Brady, but I had never actually seen him in person until, well, technically the boat parade. But
wow, that is
yeah,
awesome. How
I saw
far were
him
you from the
and
boat
Rob
parade?
Gronkowski. What?
Ooh, okay. Well, how far were you from the boat parade?
Oh, I was kind of far. I took a break because I live like maybe a 10-minute walk from like one of the places where it passed by. So I took a break and I walked down, and so I saw them in the distance. I saw the Lombardi trophy. I think Gronk was holding it. I don't know. He was so tiny I couldn't really see, but pretty sure it was him. Yeah. Really cool experience.
Well, and the awesome thing about this whole thing is that so you got to experience a Super Bowl, a pandemic Super Bowl in Tampa, and next year it's coming here to Los Angeles.
So then I can
Your
interview
hometown.
you about it.
Exactly.
Hometown, I know.
Yeah, it's like you get to see it over in your workplace, and then I hopefully by this time next year, things are gonna be a lot different, and you're gonna be able to at least get in there, travel, maybe do some more coverage you couldn't this year. But I mean, would that be something that you would want to do? Next year, come out here and then cover the Super Bowl.
Oh, that would be amazing. And I mean, I have a feeling that the Bucks are going to go back to the Super Bowl next year. So even more of a chance for us to head out there and do some good coverage, help out our sister station out there.
Exactly. No, that's awesome. So Uh, let's just go back a little bit more. Talk a little bit about just your career in news, because it's taking you just in these different directions. I mean, you were so close to the biggest, I would say, like the biggest sports phenomena, the Super Bowl. And again, unfortunately, because of COVID, there's a lot of restrictions, not only on journalists but everybody else. But I mean, nevertheless, you got to be part of a team that covered the Super Bowl. But what have been some of your most favorite, I think, stories to tell in your career as a journalist, whether it's for Bay News 9 or before?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, there's so many stories. I think one of the biggest ones that stands out to me, this was definitely a lot more of like a hard news story, but I covered this trial, the Dixon trial, in my first market in Amarillo, Texas. But technically, the trial was in Lubbock, so an hour and a half away, totally different news market. But for whatever reason, my boss, this was, no kidding, 2 weeks into the job. I was fresh out of college, like still getting my feet wet, didn't know what I was doing. And one day my news director comes up to me and he tells me, all right, we're going to send you to Lubbock to cover this big trial. So take the weekend, do your research, and then on Monday, you're going to Lubbock. And because it was an hour and a half drive, like, one way, they ended up booking me a hotel. And this was such a big trial that it lasted a month. So I lived in Lubbock for a month, like right as I started my first job. And so the story behind this was this plastic surgeon in Amarillo was dating this, he was married, but then he met this former NFL cheerleader. They start dating, he divorces his wife, and then they break up, and then she moves to Lubbock, starts dating another doctor down there. And so what they were trying to prove is that the plastic surgeon, Dr. Dixon, hired his best friend / business partner and paid him in 3 silver bars to kill this other doctor.
Wow.
So they had already, when I started, they had already convicted his friend to life in prison, but they just needed to prove that Dixon was the mastermind behind it. So it was, it's a lot easier to say that the guy that murdered someone did it versus he told me to do it. So that's why it took so long. I mean, it was 3.5 weeks of testimony and, the opening and closing statements. And as a Cub reporter, you're still learning the ropes in general. So then learning like all the court lingo, because that's something I'd never really experienced before, was challenging, but it was a really rewarding experience, like professionally, to be able to be part of that coverage. And the first trial ended in a mistrial. So we had to do it all over again the next fall. And so again, I went back for another month, and that was towards the end of my contract. And at that point, it was a guilty verdict. And because it was such a big trial and it was such a unique story, I mean, it was just a bizarre story and sad story, because this doctor has 3 sons, and one of them actually, I think, is a producer out in LA, a movie, TV producer. They're all like adult, have their lives, have their families. And, this doctor was very like well loved around Lubbock. And so having someone like him be murdered so brutally, I think was just a really, it's one of those shocking stories that once you hear about it, you want to learn more about it. So, like 2020 was covering it as well, like Dateline, 60 Minutes, or 48 Hours. I can't remember which one. So all the big networks were there. So it was cool also getting to talk to the seasoned veteran journalists that kind of helped guide me, especially during that second trial, and teach me about, covering a big case like that. And I got to help out with some of 2020's coverage. At the time I was with an ABC affiliate. So that was a really cool experience, but it was also really cool getting to follow that story through and then seeing that family get closure, because, they were sitting there in the courtroom with us and we got to talk to them. Like, all the reporters and I covering the case, we got to know each other really well, and we got to know the families as well. So
Mm.
it was good seeing, these families get their closure as well, and see the court system do its thing.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you, because with news stories that are heavy like this, there's always awkwardness when you're trying to deal with the family of the affected.
Yeah.
How did you do it? What was your technique? How did you approach the family, especially being just coming out of college? You said, and this being your first gig essentially. Yeah. How did you approach them?
I mean, this was like a bit of a unique scenario because they were under a gag order for the entire trial. So I think alongside with like all the other reporters, we got to establish this kind of relationship with them prior to there being a verdict. So at that point, I mean, it was relatively easy to just, also their attorneys kind of made them available for comment. So that took a lot out of the toughness. But to answer your question, though, I guess that doesn't really apply to this specific scenario, but it's just a lot of trial and error, and something that, it's tough even to this day. I mean, it's something that comes with experience, I would say, and maturity. And that's what a lot of like my older colleagues told me, especially when I started. It's something that you kind of learn. And as you become a more mature adult in general, you grow into who you are, and you tap into your emotions and knowing how to handle that, people's emotions and compassion and all that. I think that gives you better tools to be able to approach these families. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot that goes through your mind, especially like the first few times you do it. I was scared out of my mind, like just so anxious. And you have to do it, and you kind of have to remind yourself like why you're this, like, whether it's to get justice for, whatever family you're talking to, or there's obviously a bigger purpose. And so you kind of have to go into it with that mindset of this is why, and maybe this is a chance for them to honor their loved one. And you kind of go from there. Just have to be careful with how you approach them and the words you use, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any one size fits all.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no secret formula. And I've had people ask me, how do you just do it? Like, just make it look easy. And I think you nailed it, saying that it does come with experience, and then you just get confident. The more you do it, the more confident you get. And then you know how to navigate those waters when they come. But I really liked what you said in your blog, and I'm gonna quote here because I think this is well, I mean, we touched a little bit on this, but I think this is gonna kick us into our next topic of conversation. But in your blog, you say, have you always wondered what being a TV news reporter is like? Don't be fooled by what you've seen in movies, because it is nothing like that. I love that quote. Because you're right.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about some of the differences. Oh, well, actually, before I do that, I know that there's been some recent movies involving reporters, like in the last 2 years. It's like just I think I want to say maybe Jessica Alba was in one of those, but
I don't think
there's been these reporter or journalist movies and shows out in streaming services just within the last 2 years, and every time I see one of those, it's like, no, that's not how you do it. No, that's totally wrong. You would never see that. No. So, I'm sure you've gone through this too. But what are some of the realities versus some of the, I guess, fantasies of TV shows and movies?
Yeah, I love Hallmark Christmas movies. They're like my kryptonite. I look forward to them every year. And I swear every year there's at least 2 movies either about a journalist or like has something to do with, like, there's a journalist in there somewhere, even if she's not the main character. But with a lot of these, I mean, it's like so cheesy, and I guess, yeah, I mean, what do you expect from a cheesy movie? So, but one thing I always notice in these movies, they're always live. Like as soon as they get out of the car, they're like, I'm here reporting live, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you have to dial in. You have to call your producer. You have to get the live view set up. That's not how that works. And I guess my station where we have a 24-hour news channel, but most news stations only have certain hours of programming. You're not going to be live all the time. Like, no, that's not how that works. And I think that's one of the biggest ones. And now I'm blanking out, but that's always one that gets me.
Well, and talking about live, like I've seen in some of these shows that it's like the aspiring journalist, or like the journalist that like thought that she didn't want to be in news anymore, and all of a sudden like she gets her second wind, and she waits until like some reporter that's live needs to go to the bathroom, and then all of a sudden she takes over the live shot, not being affiliated with the station. Or, I mean, I don't think just anybody can go and and do a live shot, even if you've been in news or are a reporter. I mean, even like colleagues working the same, in the same company, don't just go into somebody else's live shot and start doing their live shot for them. Like it just doesn't happen.
No. And not to mention traffic, how long it would take to get there.
Exactly.
Another thing that I see in movies a lot is the reporter has like 4 people with her. Like she has like a sound guy, she has a photographer, she has a producer. In what world does this happen? Here I am doing it all myself.
I know. This is like just going back to the 50s, because I think in the 50s they did have like a 4-person team. But that was back then because the equipment wasn't really as it is now. I mean, you can shoot stuff with your phone. I've seen people make news packages out of just your cell phone. And just, I guess for everybody just watching who may not know what a package is, can you explain what a package is?
So package is the story that you would see on air. So, you have the anchor. We call it like tossing to the package when the anchor introduces like, so-and-so has the story for you. And then it goes into a minute 30 story where it's the reporter telling the story. That's a package versus the anchor just reading on camera. That's the VO or VOSOT. So package is what the reporter does. And usually, or depending on the story, like the reporter will go live to intro the package. And then package rolls, and then the reporter tags out with another live shot. And there you have it. That's the final product that takes all day.
Yeah.
For a minute 30.
Exactly. That's all, folks.
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all the stuff that goes into it, and it's not easy. And one of the other things that I've seen is that the journalist or the reporter is always held as some type of hero. Which, I mean, they are in their own right, but I mean, as we've seen the past 4 years, reporters have gotten attacked, and called names, by a certain somebody, and I mean, you've been working news during those 4 years, so how was that experience for you? Like going out, especially by yourself, trying to cover the news, and then you have somebody that is basically accusing you of fake news.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. And I've had a lot of conversations, especially in the past few months, with my colleagues, especially other women, especially as women, I would say. It's already dangerous enough being out there by yourself, doing like 2 or 3 jobs at once because you're so preoccupied and doing everything to the best of your ability that, it's easy to let your guard down. And we've had instances where, journalists have been attacked or, even murdered in, 2015? Mm-hmm. So there's always that like thing at the back of your mind, like this safety aspect of watch your back, you're by yourself. Especially driving around in a marked vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
It's this giant logo. You can't miss it. Everyone, it draws so much attention. So, that in general, like generally speaking, is already, it kind of weighs as you're doing your job. But then, you add, especially as like, the past couple of years, I would say, when like a lot of the tension and like the rhetoric was ramping up, especially against journalists. And, it just kind of spirals from there. And you see what happened at the Capitol. I mean, obviously not to get political, but it kind of ties in a little bit, where there was this, it kind of went hand in hand. And after that particular event happened, I think there were some posts, something where there was an image that one of the journalists captured. Like, I think it was somewhere written on the Capitol, like "murder the media" or something like that. And so that was just so chilling to see as like someone that works in the media. And again, going back to, as someone that works by themselves. Yeah, I mean, it's going from, maybe when I first started in my career to now, there's definitely a lot more that you have to worry about. Yeah. So it's nerve-wracking, but again, we do it because we love the job and we feel like we're making a difference in the world. So at the end, it's worth it.
Exactly. Yeah. Being a journalist is not an easy job. No matter how many people think it is, it's not an easy job whatsoever, whether you're out in the field or, doing things back at the station behind the scenes. It's never easy because you're dealing with a lot, and a lot of the times for very little praise too, and for little money. But, there's this notion about, people, reporters, I've met reporters that just want to do it to be on TV, not because they really love the job. They just love the aspect of being on TV. For that, I've met people that don't want to be team players. I met people that, their goal is to get to a big market like LA or New York, and that's it. But in regards to that, like I read somewhere that it's not really about getting to that high market, because if you find a station that you really feel really good and comfortable in, like that's home. You can't ask for anything better than that. So I think with your career as you see it, moving forward, what got you interested in this profession to begin with, seeing all the hardships that you've had, all the challenges that you've had to overcome? What inspired you to begin with, and when was the first time that you remember saying to yourself, this is the profession I want to be in?
Oh, there's a lot that goes with that. But, well, one, when you're young, you have no idea the hardships that you are going to go through. So I guess I can't really speak to that, back then, at least, when I was making that choice of I want to go into journalism. I think the first time that I don't think I fully realized that I wanted to do what I wanted to do, but it said a lot about where I was going to go in life. I was like 8 or 9. I had just moved to Chino. That's where Chino Hills. That's where I grew up. We had moved into a new house. There was like a playground nearby. And so my mom and I were taking a walk one day, and there was like this like little like rock climbing thing. And I remember going up there and pretending to go live from the top of Mount Everest. And so I would do like these fake live shots on the playground. I did that a lot that summer. I don't know why. And I like would write, like I would make up my like pretend newspapers and give it to my parents. I'm an only child, so I have on my hands, obviously. But see, I would do all of this stuff. Like I would create, my like live reports, my newspapers, my articles. Like I was always interested in that. And I will be the first to admit I am terrible at math, terrible at science. So I knew I was never going to go into one of those fields anyway. So I always loved writing. I loved reading. And there's, storytelling, just the art of storytelling, either like consuming stories or writing stories. That's always something that I've been very passionate about, even as a kid. So I think that's where that kind of came into play, but I didn't really give it a second thought. And even in high school, I didn't really know what exactly I wanted to do. And then I got to college and in evaluating when I said, well, I'm not good at math or science. Let's try something to do with writing. And then I thought, well, let me put journalism as my major. Like, let's see where this takes me. If I don't like it, I'll switch. And then, once I started taking classes, I fell in love with it. But I don't think it was until I started interning at one of the stations in LA and really getting that hands-on experience and getting to see what it was really like is that I was really fired up and knew, okay, I have to do this after college. And it's hard getting your foot in the door. And I think I would say that's the hardest part is getting that first job. So that I think was my biggest obstacle. And well, will this really happen? Like I have this dream. I know I really love this, but will this actually happen? And it did. So I lucked out. I worked hard. I mean, I wouldn't say I lucked out, but I was given the opportunity. And yeah, so I think I didn't fully realize it until, I was probably about like 19 when I was doing that internship. And that's when it really clicked. And then, now looking back at my life, I saw that it kind of had been building up to that moment. But yeah, I think that's when the realization fully hit. And then at that point, I was a lot more aware of what would come with the job. And, once hearing about it is one thing, living it is another. But at that point, I had, enough knowledge to know, well, I think the pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah, exactly. Well, do you remember when you got the call to go work in your first station, which what was it? It was in Texas, I believe.
Amarillo, Texas. Yeah. My senior year, first of all, was crazy. I was doing 20 hours a week at my internship. Wow. And then I was working 20 hours at my part-time job at Target, not to mention a full 18 units. So it was a lot. I had no free time that senior year. So once the summer wrapped up, I was still working at Target, saving up, didn't know what my next step was going to be, but I was applying to jobs like crazy. But I had sent out my reel right after I graduated. So probably around June, July, and everyone's graduating at that time. So everyone else is sending out the reel. So the job market is saturated. It's hard to get your foot in the door, especially when there's so many candidates that have just also graduated the same week and month as you applying. So that made it hard. So I wasn't hearing anything back. So in the meantime, I was just working at Target and kind of, I didn't know, again, what the next step was going to be. So I had no inkling of when is this going to end? What am I going to do? And so, I just spent all summer basically working at Target and still sending out my applications. And finally, I had kind of gotten some bites from, that station in Amarillo, which ultimately ended up hiring me and two others. And so I was kind of waiting, but I knew for whatever reason that I wanted to go somewhere in Texas to start off. I don't know. I just felt called to. And so I remember one day I was at work at Target. I didn't think I was going to hear anything back anytime soon. And then I get a call, but I knew that I could be getting potential calls. So I had my phone in my back pocket, and I heard my phone ring. I look at the screen because I'm like, just in case. I see it's the station in Amarillo calling. So I'm technically working on the floor. So I run into one of the fitting rooms, take the call, and it's my, then future boss saying, all right, you got the job. I'm trying not to scream because I knew that was, I had done it. I had got my foot in the door. I did what I had set out to do. But I had to really tone down my excitement because I was technically on the clock at my current job. So but I just remember standing in that fitting room and thinking, wow, yep, my life is about to change. I am stepping into a new chapter, and I don't know what adventures this will hold, but I know it's going to be good. So I just saw like a lot of opportunities flash before my eyes in that fitting room.
I think the way that I got into the news business, I don't think will fly nowadays because it was so crazy too. It's just.
How did you get it?
Well, I started out at Univision, a Univision affiliate out in Santa Barbara, and they unfortunately had a lot of budget cuts, so they let me go. But fortunately for me, I was still a full-time student at the university. And I saw a job opening for a position, a full-time photographer or videographer for my local news station in Santa Barbara. And I thought like, well, I did my stint at the Univision affiliate and I like it. So let me see if I can get one. If I don't get a job here, it's fine because I'm still a full-time student. I'll worry about getting a job afterwards. But what I ended up doing was going up in person, even though the post online said, oh, submit your resume through this portal. And I decided, well, I just live down the hill from that station, so I'm just going to go up there. So I went up there. Back then, they had a receptionist, and I asked the receptionist if I could talk to the person that was hiring. And she says, well, everybody's on vacation right now because of the holidays, but they'll be back in a couple weeks. But you'd probably be better off if you just submit your stuff through that portal.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I'll come back. So 2 weeks pass. I come back, and again, she recognizes me. She tells me, again, you're better off just submitting through the portal.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, well, I don't live too far from here, and I got a lot of time to kill today. So what if I just wait here in the lobby, and I'll just talk to the chief photographer who's the hiring party, just for a couple minutes. And she says, well, okay. And then like an hour passed, and I think she felt sorry for me, so she gets on the phone with the chief photographer, and she's talking on the phone with him for a little bit. Yeah, and she's saying like, yeah, he's here in the lobby, blah blah. So she hands the phone over to me, and he basically does like a quick assessment over the phone. Like, okay, where did you work? What's your experience? Okay, just wait there. I'm heading back to the station. I got to pick up a reporter, and we got to go do this story. But you can come right along with me.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So that's what ended up happening. Is I ride with him, and he does like this informal interview in the car and all that, and he says, you remind me a lot of me when I was young, la la la,
yeah.
And then finally I get like a call 2 days after that, right along, and he says like, do you have time to come in for an interview? And at that time, I mean, I had applied for the full-time position, but he told me like, well, I don't think you're ready for the full-time position. I think you're still new to the news business, so yeah. But we do have this part-time position, and would you be interested? And I said, yeah. So that's kind of how I got my foot in the door. I've never went through an internship or anything like that, but I just got really fortunate, and that this chief photographer invited me into that world, and so from there I really put a lot of hard work, worked a lot of odd hours. I think I probably worked every single shift there was there. Eventually, I grew and got to where I am now, but it wasn't easy. And in Santa Barbara, you don't have these so-called stringers, which are these cameramen that go out. They're not necessarily affiliated with any news station at all, but they go out, they get video at odd hours, a lot of times overnight, and then they sell that video to the news stations, and then the news stations air that footage. So in Santa Barbara and other small towns, that stuff doesn't exist. If you're a photographer, you're for the station, you're gonna have to go and do that dirty work for them yourself.
Yeah.
So there were times when I would have to wake up at 2 a.m. because the producer was calling me saying, "Hey, there's a fatal crash over on this part of the freeway. Go check it out." And so, but I really enjoy doing all that. So I was always hyped up to go and do something else. But I do remember the first breaking news story that I went to, and it was like all this adrenaline rushing through my body that I got a stomach ache, and I was like, oh my God, no.
Oh, no.
It's like I started getting cramps and everything. It was so
gosh.
bad. I got the video, but it was so bad because I was like all nervous and everything.
Oh.
And then, later on, I learned how to control those emotions. But there's things that a journalist sees that I think a lot of people may not see in their entire lifetime, bad things, but also good things. I've seen a lot of good things. So those are the parts that I really enjoy about my job, telling those positive stories.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. There's just nothing better than, this is why I love local news as opposed to national news, and why I love smaller towns as opposed to like just big metropolises. But it's just those stories that you can tell. And I'm a really creative person, so I do a lot of creative things, and I see that in you as well. You I think are a really creative person. So maybe you can talk to me a little bit about that and about using social media as part of your creativity, and how that is like, and how you approach social media, especially as a journalist, because you do have to be a little careful depending on what you do as a career in life.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that and your way of approaching things.
Yeah. So I feel like my method's a little bit unconventional. I focus a lot on Twitter, like as far as like my news social media. Because you see my Instagram, but that's really just me, it's not really focused on work. It really isn't. It's more of like my creative outlet, like is taking pictures, as, we were talking at the beginning. I love taking pictures. I think that's my way of expressing my creativity that way. But as far as like social media with work, like, I use Twitter a lot. I mean, just retweeting, like tweeting lots of pictures and videos from like whatever my story is, or if I'm at some cool event, or even if I'm just out and about, because as a journalist, you're kind of always on the lookout for whatever's going on. And sometimes I'll see like some crazy accident, I'll start tweeting, even though I'm like off the clock and sending emails to my work. I mean, you can never really turn it off. It's just an instinct, I think. So that's kind of how I approach that. But then, like I said, Instagram, I will share stuff on there too, because I do have like people that I've met through stories on there. So I will post like some news related content every once in a while, but that's definitely more of like my fun, like social media, like just kind of post whatever within reason, of course, like you said, because we have to be careful on what we post as journalists and professionals. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun little project, but social media takes up a lot of time, I will say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a Facebook page, and Twitter, Instagram, and now I guess Clubhouse is another one. Oh, that's right, YouTube. How can I forget YouTube? We're streaming right now to YouTube.
Are we on YouTube right now?
But yeah, like I love doing a lot of creative things and creative projects, and especially during the pandemic. We were talking a little bit off camera about this, but when the pandemic hit, I started really getting interested in just the live stream aspect of it, because I just wanted to learn more about the process of how to get really great quality video and audio onto a live stream platform. I mean, there's I feel like I'm there now, but I also I mean, there's so many cool gadgets out there that you can invest in to really do a lot of things. But one of the other things that I really got into doing a lot during the pandemic was actually using my iPhone to do a lot of the things. In fact, now if I need to, and I've done it too when I've created packages for digital or for the web only. But what I love doing is create it, just recording video on my phone, and I get these nice creative shots and everything. And then I transfer that video over to my iPad Pro, and I just edit it there. So usually, like I'm gonna have to show you these, but it's like I created a couple packages just on that process, just shooting it on my phone, editing it on my iPad Pro, and it turns out really good. The other thing too is one of the things I love about digital is that your packages don't have a time limit. So if you're in broadcast and you're doing news, like you said earlier, it cuts down to 1.5 minutes, sometimes even less than that. But with digital, it's like there's no limit. So that's one of the aspects I love about doing this type of job. But yeah, so like my iPhone and my iPad Pro are my really portable tools, and I've been just getting little gadgets here and there to improve little things about iPhone shooting. But talk to me about some of the gadgets that you have, some of the gadgets that you use for your work, and also some of the gadgets that you use just to create, outside your workspace.
Honestly, I mean, kind of what you just said, my iPhone, like that's it. That's it. Just my iPhone camera. I have a phone tripod that I think I paid like $20 for it. I actually bought that pre-pandemic, and it's actually was like the best investment ever. Only $22 on Amazon, and it's like a fully extendable tripod. Like it goes up like probably this high, and I'm like sitting on a high chair, so it goes pretty high. And it's great. Like I'll normally shoot my interview still with like my MMJ camera. So, I mean, it's a fairly large camera and I have the mic for that. But then everything else, I will shoot it on my iPhone because it's just easier. I feel like the camera quality is great for video and for just still pictures. And so, yeah, like I honestly can do everything. Like I'll track, like I'll voice my packages on my iPhone. Like I use the voice memo note. I'll go in my closet. That's my tracking booth now. And I'll go in there, I'll record, I'll like airdrop it to my laptop, and there, it's super easy. And then I'll airdrop all my videos that I shoot, all my B-roll, put it on my laptop, and then edit it from there. It's super easy.
Wow.
And then with my, like, for pictures for Instagram, like I'll take them there, and then I have like 3 apps that I use to edit and just like sharpen, change up the color, and then I'm ready to post. So I'll do a lot of that stuff just on my phone. But for my work stuff, when I incorporate my iPhone, I can just like airdrop everything to this laptop and good to go. It's great. It's so convenient.
Oh yeah. No, I love it. One of the features that I think it's somewhat underrated from that the iPhone offers is the photo sharing stream. And when I was a digital director over at KYT in Santa Barbara, that's the ABC affiliate out there, I implemented it with all the reporters because I figured, okay, I need a way that doesn't take a lot of time away from the reporters, especially the MMJs, multimedia journalists.
Yeah.
And have them get pictures from a scene that they go to back to me so I can use those images on a web story. And the photo sharing feature of that iPhone was awesome because you can invite as many people as you want. Although I think, you have to have an iPhone. Luckily, the station had upgraded everybody to iPhones. And then all they have to do is just snap a photo, share it to that photo stream, and then that photo stream service has the ability to create a public link. So I would just bookmark it on my desktop computer, and I would get an alert every time somebody uploaded an image. I'd go check it out, and if it was something I wanted to use, just quickly download it from there. And it was awesome the way that environment got integrated that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
that's so smart. That's such a good idea. It's like I'll normally like email it or have to do something, or it's not that it takes that much longer, but it's still like a few extra steps.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, if you're gonna email it, I think they limit you to 5 images or 5 pictures at a time.
Yeah.
Where with the photo sharing, you can do like a lot all at once, like a bulk
Yeah.
upload. So it's really awesome that this is why I've come to just use my iPhone as my portable
Yeah.
device for everything, really. And
Everything.
yeah. Especially, well, which version of the iPhone do you have?
Yeah. So my personal one is the XR. So like I'll use that one for everything. So I just use my personal. So I have both right here. But this is my XR, and then I think this is the 6. This is my work phone. So I don't shoot a lot on that one. But yeah, I'll use my personal for everything.
Oh man, wait till you upgrade to like the pros. Those are
I
crazy.
know.
Yeah, no,
I
they're
know.
super crazy with the cameras. Like I got the 11 Pro Max, and yeah, I mean I love it. Like I was invested in getting that type of version of iPhone just because of the nature of the work that I do, and at that
Yeah.
time I didn't have a work iPhone or anything like that. All I had was just my own phone, but I got paid well
Yeah.
enough that I could do that. And then I was like, well, yeah, I think I'll keep it. I'll keep using it. And until now, it's really my go-to tool for a fast thing. Because I mean, just look at the images that you're able to take, like the what is it, the blue moon milk, the blue moon milk. Yeah, that I mean that was that. Those photographs look like they came out of a magazine. But just really quickly, like what's the process for you to get a photo like that?
So I remember for that one, like I actually used my tripod for that. So I set my tripod up to like the highest setting, and then I set it on like a self timer, or I think I was still kind of controlling it. And then I was
Hmm.
holding it like at the bottom and kind of like trying to angle it at the perfect angle. And I, of course, had to get the lighting right. So I had to stand by the window, and yeah. And then I just did a lot of editing. Like I tweaked the colors, I made it a little brighter and sharpened it up. And yeah, I mean, really, it was more of just like getting the right angle and like the right lighting. But there's
Mm.
always a way to do that. If it's
Do,
sunny and if it's daytime, yeah.
yeah, exactly. Do you use a particular
But it was
app?
still like I still had to like pull out my tripod to do that. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
Do you edit on your iPhone, or do you use your computer to edit pictures and create other things?
For pictures? For pictures, yeah, I use my phone. I'll use it's called Color Story, so it's kind of like
Mm.
Lightroom.
Oh, interesting.
And I pay for it's like a monthly fee. I think it's like $5 a month. But then
Wow.
it like
Okay.
gives you all the access that like Lightroom has with like the curves and
Mhm.
like the sharpen and like different filters, and so
Wow.
it gives you a lot of flexibility on like what you can do. And it's all touch screen because it's
Uh-huh.
an iPhone. So it like really allows you to like be really precise. Like if I want to like color correct maybe like one part of the image, I can do that. So that's like it's so convenient for that.
Wow.
But yeah, everything else like video
Mhm.
wise, like I don't really edit
Mhm.
anything on my iPhone. Like I'll just airdrop it, and then we use Premiere. So like I'll use Premiere. But
Mm.
for video editing, it's really only for work and for Twitter. Like I'll maybe edit a few videos, but I'll of course like airdrop whatever, and then Premiere actually has like really good like video editing as well. So
Mm.
I'll be
Mhm.
able to like maybe like spruce it up for Twitter and post it on social media that way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of your favorite apps? Whether it's on the phone or really anything else, like your computer, even because you're using a Mac, right, for a computer?
Yeah.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
and the Macs are totally different. I think the latest, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the latest update, I believe, for the Mac laptops or Mac computers, they almost resemble the iPad interface. Um, and I think
Yeah.
now, mhm.
I don't know. I don't have an iPad.
Yeah,
That's the one thing I don't have. But I would think so because it has like the little touch screen at the top, like not touch screen.
hmm
It's like a touch bar. And then it has
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you have like the launch pad and it gives you like all the different apps.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't. I think it still accepts certain softwares, but I think the way Apple is going now, it's just apps. You just download it. They take less room, and you just tap on it or open them up. So, what are some of your favorite apps or applications that you use on a regular basis, and also to create?
I mean, I really keep it simple. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for example, for work stuff and for like video, like I really just use like I'm gonna look at I can't look at my toolbar right. Oh yeah, I can. Yeah, really just Adobe Premiere, yeah, Zoom for work stuff. Yeah, but really Premiere is like the main one that I use and everything else I just kind of use it for like browsing the internet. But on my phone, like Instagram's a big one. I love Instagram. I'm always oversharing on Instagram. Twitter, of course. Yeah, like I said, Color Story is my favorite one for editing. Prequel, it's like a photo and video editing app.
Hmm.
I just recently started getting into that one. But again, that's just more fun for like stories or for fun, like little like Instagram videos or whatever. Um, yeah. I love TikTok. I don't create on there, but but that's an app that I'm always on. I don't really think that relates to anything, but that's a fun app. But yeah, like I said, just for content creating, I
Uh-huh.
really keep it simple. I just use those. I use my notes app a lot to like stay
Mm.
organized, my content. I can't live without my calendar app as well. Keep track of everything. But yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I think those are pretty much the main ones.
Awesome,
So
awesome. Well,
yeah.
as we wrap this up, do you have any tips, any advice for the folks that are watching this and that they want to get into the news business or they want to just up their game and becoming really awesome content creators? Do you have any advice for these types of folks that are into that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just keep being hands on. I mean, I think practice makes perfect, or not perfect, but it keeps you improving. There's always something to learn and improve on, I would say. But yeah, I mean, that's really the best way to learn, I would say. And kind of just what you said too, um, just putting yourself out there and um, just real quick, I want to share because it reminded me of like an experience I had when you said that you just showed up at the station and kind of waited around until you got your
Yeah.
opportunity. That's actually how I got my internship. I saw one of the photographers. He was shooting a VOSAT like right down the street, and I was on the way to the mall with my mom. And I think this is like end of my sophomore year. Um, and yeah, I remember he was like by a gas station and my mom actually had to get gas. So I was like, let me go talk to him. And that's kind of how he let me shoot the VOSAT. And then he's like, okay, let me get your contact info. Like, I'll pass it along because I know you're applying for internships. And from there, like, I was able to get an internship at the station. And that was like, honestly, the best opportunity because that's really what allowed me to like really learn and be hands on. So I mean, I think there's something to be said for that too, is just really put yourself out there. Like, don't be shy, reach out to whoever, like keep networking. Because it really is all about like who you know and like who you meet. That's like a really big thing. Yeah, I think that's like a probably the biggest piece of advice that I would say. And again, just practice, like go interview whoever, put your own stories together just for fun, put them out there, and keep storytelling. I think that's the biggest thing.
Well said. All right, Adria, do you have anything else that you'd like to just throw out there before we wrap it up? Anything I
um,
missed?
Go Bucks.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing how you continue to grow in the news industry and also in your writing and your blogging because I mean I from what I'm seeing it's like the sky's the limit for you, and you're really doing a great job. So I'm really just excited to see your journey in this, and maybe we'll touch bases again later in the near future and see, where you are compared to where you are now. So
yeah.
So I really want to thank you for coming on this show and taking some time to just talk to me. I know we probably went over the...
Yes, of course. And I hope we get to catch up soon at Camp News if it happens this year.
I want to thank Adria again for being so generous with her time to come speak to me. You can sense the passion she has for her career. She's quite a role model. And don't forget to connect with Adria on social media. The links are in the description to this episode. I've also included a link to my YouTube channel for additional content in the description. If you have any comments or questions regarding this episode or the podcast in general, send them to hangrymexicanpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to feature some of your comments on a later episode. And please rate the Hangry Mexican Podcast on Apple Podcast and all other major platforms we are streaming on. The more you rate, the more ears this podcast will reach. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay safe, good night, good luck.